I'm hitting record. I don't get the like final jolt of energy for the show until the show like actually starts, and then I'm like, I'm ready. So
yeah,
it's starting to settle in now. We're recording. We're good to go. This is Stream the Machine episode 49, and it starts.
Yeah, not ready.
Right now.
Please carry on. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll go this way. I'll take it from here. Hi. How are you? Okay, please pick a question. Good luck. Among the five senses, what do you prefer to have if you could only have one, and why? Would you like me to repeat? Okay.
Thank you for that wonderful question. If I have to pick out of five senses, I would pick seeing. Because seeing is the best sense that we can ever see, because seeing is believing. And believing into what you see is perfect. And out of all those senses, seeing would really be wonderful because, thank you, that'll be it.
Thank you so much. Nice round of applause here. Thank you.
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
You're listening to a Fly Science Productions podcast. Welcome to Stream the Machine. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Stream the Machine episode 49. Yeah, that was Kanye West being a doucher at
Of course.
a Red Cross thing. I played that clip last week, and they're oops, we got no jazz. Now we have jazz. And they're it's him and Michael Myers, and they're trying to raise relief for Katrina. And Kanye decides that he wants to start going on his own agenda on George Bush and racism, I guess. But whatever, that's Kanye West. We've come to expect it from him. So
Yep.
at least he's consistently an asshole. Gee, it's episode 49. We are one episode away from the big kahuna. I started trying to write up a little bit of the show notes last night for next Saturday, and it's proving to be a little daunting because I don't know. Hold on, I don't like the lighting in this room. It's way too dark on my face.
Yeah, I had to open some curtains up.
Let me see. Is this
Ooh, and the tree's blooming.
maybe this is better? I don't know. I don't know if I like it. We'll go with it.
Makes your shirt like it looks like it has stripes.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, is when we do the daylight savings time switch, I totally forgot about this, but now for like the next 6 months or however long it lasts, the sun is going to rise just perfectly in the morning so that when we start the show, for the first part of it, it like comes right into my face and blinds me. And so I can't just leave the curtain open, or the blinds open completely, because then I'll just have a beating sun in my eye the entire time. So I have to do this weird like micromanagement and then change it, and it's... Anyways, started doing some of the notes yesterday, and we've got some interesting stuff lined up. It's good. I'll tell you what. It is going to be the full 2-hour show. For anyone who's listening in and was like, I wonder if, what that is. It going to be a 90-minute? Is it going to be a little over an hour? It's going to be 2 hours because we've got a lot of content that we want to give you guys, and we want to make sure it's a special show. And we try not to go to 2 hours too much anymore. We used to quite a bit.
We've gotten better, yeah.
We have gotten a lot better at it. Trying to provide concise, quick, entertaining material. And you know what? We've got a lot that we're going to do for you next Saturday. So there's a good amount of stuff to be had. Surprises for everyone, maybe even surprises for some of our co-hosts. So we will see. I won't mention anything else. Instead, we will go on to... oh, wait, I'm getting a message here. Coming in hot on the line. Just my sister complimenting us on the show. Thank you, Jen, very much. So I'll show you this, because I thought it was going to be in the shot, but it's not. I
saw that.
Wolfenstein blimp that I got. I won't leave the camera like this the whole thing, but a buddy of mine used to work at GameStop, and I guess he had it left over, and Wolfenstein The New Order came out last year. It was a tremendous game. Definitely something that, if you're looking for a game to play, is one to check out. But he gave me the blimp, which is really cool, because now I can hang more crap. I
saw you posted it on Facebook, and from the way the picture was taken, I couldn't tell how big that thing was. Like, it looked giant.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, so I mean, when you're up there and you're holding it, I mean, it's like 3 feet long. So I mean, it's pretty big. It's not massive though. So it looks a lot smaller in that camera view, but also because it's sort of, another 3 or 4 feet behind me. But it was cool. It was really nice of him. He messaged me. He's like, "Hey, you like Wolfenstein, right?" And I was like, "Dude, I loved Wolfenstein." He's like, "Well, I have this. You can have it." So that was very nice of him, and I was very glad to receive that. Add to my collection of. I got another figure. So. Let me see here if I can show this. This was the new thing that I just got. I don't know how well that's... It's like a guy in motion with his sword there. You can see that. Got a badass tattoo on his chest there. Anyways, that was the last thing that I had ordered. I talked about the convention, and I showed up. My card was getting denied and stuff. And that was the last thing that I ordered online after the convention. So now I can rest easy. I got everything I wanted from that place. I guess we'll just have to... I've been thinking about getting a Batman figure now, actually. They've got a lot of variations of it, because you can get like the Arkham Origins one, the Arkham City one. There's other ones that aren't even related to Arkham. They even have... I don't know if you remember this, but it was last year, the year before, Square Enix, who does Final Fantasy and all that kind of crap, they have their own figure line called Play Arts Kai, I believe, and they make figures. They did a variant of Batman in the style of like a Final Fantasy sort of art style, I guess.
Really?
Yeah. So they did a big, like a drawing of it, and they had the print, but then they also, I think, did a figure for it. So if you were to search up like, I don't know, Final Fantasy art Batman or something, it's a crazy looking Batman. He's got like crazy wings and everything, and his suit's really cool, and I'm pretty sure he's even got a sword. Just kind of makes him look like a crazy Final Fantasy Batman, and
that's pretty sweet.
I'm
Googling it right now.
it was a pretty cool mashup, and they've done it for a couple of different things. The Batman one was the one that kind of caught my attention because Batman's awesome, and they made him look pretty sweet. So disheartening news today, and start to show off probably the most depressing note that we'll ever have in the history of Stream the Machine. Kojima leaves Konami, which is the company that produced Metal Gear Solid. They have decided that they are going to continue the Metal Gear Solid series.
I lost audio. Hold
on. Hello? Testing. Tony has no audio. Oh, we're back.
Good.
So Kojima's the guy who's made all of the Metal Gear Solid series. Him and his production team. He's the guy behind it. That's just it. Like when you go to see a David Fincher movie, there's a bunch of other guys on the movie and doing stuff, but you see it because you're like, I like David Fincher's style, right? Like that's his thing. Same thing with Tarantino. You go to see a Tarantino film. Yeah, it's got other people working on it, but it's a Tarantino film. It's the same thing with Kojima and doing Metal Gear Solid. It's his child, his art project, his whatever,
baby.
Exactly. But he had said specifically that this was going to be the last Metal Gear Solid coming up. He was not going to do any more. And if the series continued without him, then that would just how it would be. That's how it would be. Well, there was kind of a weird falling out, I guess, this week. He's no longer considered a technical employee of Konami. He is staying on to finish producing The Phantom Pain, which is going to be the last official, in my opinion, Metal Gear Solid game, because that's the one that kind of ties up the stories and everything, but Konami has said that they are going to continue without him. Now, here's the part that irks me the most. I could deal with that, People leave projects all the time, and you continue. I mean, look at Halo. Halo started with Bungie, and then moved over to a completely different studio altogether. It's now with 343 Studios, and it's, it might have a few people, and actually the company name 343 Studios comes from 343 Guilty Spark, which was, I believe, a map in Halo 1. So it's not like they're not Halo fans. They've named their company after Halo. But you don't get a lot of the same original people. Happens all the time in movies and games and whatever. You don't always get, the original creators working with the project throughout the series. So I could live with it. But Konami has now decided that since Hideo Kojima is not creating Metal Gear Solid anymore, that they would remove his name from all of the box art from future and past Metal Gear games. Now I can understand I can understand it for future games because he's not on it. So why would you put a Hideo Kojima game, Kojima Productions, whatever? If you go to their website and you look for Metal Gear Solid, something that came, anything, whether it's the first one, the second one, the third one, whatever, the ones that have already come out that he produced, that he directed, that he wrote the story for, everything no longer has his name on there. Because for whatever reason, Konami's decided that they are removing Kojima's name from all of his work, and that to me is kind of a jerk move to do, to put it lightly. Yeah. Not very happy about that. As I guess you've probably known throughout a year of listening to the show, Metal Gear Solid is probably one of my favorite series of all time, and to see a company like Konami, who generally does pretty good games, or at least produces pretty good games, to see them kind of pull this move and remove his name from everything just feels like, sort of a disgrace. I actually mentioned it to Keith. We were talking, and about the series going forward, and I was like, well, I don't want to naysay something that hasn't come out yet, but I just don't think it's a good move. And he likened it to the fact, he said, going on with Metal Gear Solid without Kojima is like saying that you're going to continue writing Stephen King books without Stephen King. You're continuing a series that person has sculpted and crafted based on his perceptions, his ideals, his thoughts, his whatever, and you're going to do it without the person that made it all happen in the first place. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens to Metal Gear. It's unfortunate to hear about all that. As I said, probably the most sad news you'll hear probably for the rest of the year. So,
if that's the saddest news,
we're all in good shape. We're all in good shape.
Yeah.
I don't really have any other good, nothing really happened this week. It was pretty boring. So I do have something I did want to talk about here before we jumped into the news. Batgirl is a comic. People may have heard of it. There's a bat, pretty much anything. I'm sure there's a bat woman. There's a bat boy, I imagine. That's just how comics are. There's a bat something, or there's an aqua something, or there's a whatever. Like all versions, there's a Superman. There's a Batcat. Batcat is what I want to see. I want to see that needs to exist. So there's Batgirl, and there's probably different forms of Batgirl, just like there's different. Bruce Wayne isn't always the man who's had the cowl on for Batman. He's the most famous though, for sure. There was a Batgirl comic that came out this week, or actually it might have been next week. I think it might be next week. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Batgirl comic coming out that they do alternate covers for. So, and this is for any comic. You will have the main cover, and sometimes they will say, "Hey, you artist over here, make us a variant cover," is what they'll call it. So then when you go to pick up your comic, you have 2-3 different comic covers you can choose from, and it's kind of a collector's thing. It's really just kind of milking the money a little bit, so that one person buys all 3 comics. It all has the exact same story, but it's got 3 different covers, and 2 of them are going to be collectors, and he'll read the third one, whatever. But it's still cool. It's cool for collectors, so I'm not bashing that at all. But they had a cover art come out this week that was an homage to an old story arc called The Killing Joke. And it was about the Joker and dealt with Barbara Gordon, who is Batgirl in this particular case, and her kind of her scuffle or skirmish or whatever you want to call it, her her run-in with the Joker. Now, the comic that it was going to be a cover for was not actually about that story. But the cover that they did, and if you're listening in right now, get out your phones, get out your computers, whatever. Google Batgirl, The Killing Joke, controversial cover art, or anything like that. Batgirl pulled cover, anything, and you'll get it. And so you can see what you're looking, what we're talking about. And I want you to go ahead and text or message me on Facebook or talk to any of us and let us know what you think as we talk about this. That cover, which depicts a Joker basically holding Barbara Gordon with his arm, he's got a gun in his hand, and he's got basically making a gun hand, pointing it towards her lips. She's got the Joker sort of lipstick on her. You can see that she's in incredible discomfort. She's crying.
Yeah.
And the Joker's back there smiling, right? It's a particularly strong image because in the chapter that cover is referencing, the Joker and Barbara Gordon have their thing, and the Joker shoots her. Well, okay, so spoilers for anyone who hasn't been following Batman since, like, the 60s, by the way. I don't know when this came out. I think it was in the 80s, actually. It was late 80s. But
yeah, I believe it was 80s.
Barbara Gordon gets shot, and she gets paralyzed, and she becomes Oracle eventually. But she gets shot in the spine and loses the ability to walk. In this chapter, I've also read that the Joker basically sexually humiliates her, declothes her, takes pictures of her, and I don't know if rape is ever actually implied, or rather, I don't know if the rape actually is ever explicitly said it's happened, but it's implied. The Joker basically does everything he can to bring Batgirl down to absolute ground zero, and then, freaking Batman and everybody else get together and they beat the shit out of the Joker. It's how it goes. But it's a very important part for Batgirl because it's like, it's where she can't be Batgirl anymore.
Yeah.
She's robbed of her title, of her costume, of her ability to be what she was. Anyways, they come out with this cover art, and there's an immediate backlash that says that's far too graphic, I guess, was what the general opinion was. That they thought that the imagery of holding the Joker holding Barbara Gordon and putting his hand to her head and her crying and being in obvious discomfort and referencing such a dark chapter of Batman, or Batgirl rather, that it was too dark and they wanted the image to be pulled. Ultimately, it was pulled because the artist decided, hey, you know what? Whether or not I agree with the claims, I just don't want to put people in discomfort. I would rather just pull the image. It's fine. And so he asked DC to pull it. DC said, same thing, that we aren't particularly taking a side, but we respect the artist's request, so we are doing the same. Very class act on both people. Neither of them said whether they were on one side or another. Now, I guess I'll drop a little bit more facts before we talk about the actual issue here. Or not that it's an issue, but talk about the topic.
Controversy.
A few more facts. So Batgirl right now is being lauded as very good, mostly because of it's got a very lighthearted tone. It's a little bit different from a lot of what DC Comics does. DC is very dark, usually, in most of the stuff that they do. Hell, I just described you the Joker shooting Barbara in the spine to paralyze her and then taking pictures of her naked. That's very dark material. So it exists. It's happened. It's sort of in her backstory, okay? But the current run that's going right now, because they sort of revamp and redo the storylines all the time, is a much more lighthearted, sort of more comedic, definitely not in that dark era at this point, at least. A lot of people did not think the cover was good. They basically fell on two sides. Either one, because they thought it was just an offensive cover because of everything that's implied with that original story and the cover. And the other side, which was people who thought, the cover sure makes sense, I guess, but not for right now. Right now, Batgirl's a very lighthearted comic. We don't need a cover of the Joker basically, having her in such a compromising position. And the cover itself isn't really all that sexual. It just implies extreme discomfort, and that exactly. It's very creepy. I'm not going to defend the Joker. He's an asshole, but I mean that's what the Joker is. The Joker is meant to sort of get in there. So I'm trying to not voice my opinion yet before we get to it. Anyways, but that's it. Is that Batgirl's a lot more lighthearted right now. And it just shocked a lot of people, I think, to see such a controversial cover. So they pulled it. My question is, my question is whether or not you you think, or we think, or whatever, if you're listening in and you're listening in, if you think that that cover was offensive to a point of pulling it down, if so, why? And what it means to basically try and... I don't know if hide is the term that I want to say here, but it's about a very, like I said, I keep saying the exact same crap. It's about a very dark chapter in the story of Barbara Gordon. Sure, it's not real. It's a comic, okay? But neither, like I said, we talked about Stephen King earlier, or any other novelist. It's a story that's being written, and it's, for all intents and purposes here, real to that character, okay? It exists in that character's life. Whether that character's fake or not, it exists for that person. Is it right to remove it based on the fact that because the content doesn't change? So do you think it's right that if the cover depicts is reflecting on a dark chapter, do you think it is right to remove that when people cry offensive, I guess?
See, okay. What bugs me is I understand why they pulled it, just because people are upset. But it's a variant, which doesn't mean it's the only cover for that comic book run. Like, if you don't like it, buy the other cover.
Right.
Like, I mean, that actually happened. That's like part of DC's history. Like, there are people out there that are like, wow, that's a really, like, it's a powerful cover, because they actually understand what went on.
Right. The only thing that I could really think as far as the variant covers argument was whether or not people were worried about their kids going in to buy a comic. Not that kids are if you're, obviously not a 12-year-old driving in to go buy their own comics. You're probably walking around with your parents. But let's say you show up for whatever reason. And one of the biggest claims, I guess I also should mention, is that right now the Batgirl run is credited for getting a lot of women back into comics. Because, any good, strong female character is great. There's lots of them in DC, actually. Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl. There's plenty more that I can't think of because I don't know my lore of DC as well. But, Marvel has them as well. Women that are badasses, kicking the shit out of dudes that suck. And Batgirl is one of them right now. And so a lot of people are, really excited about that. And so for them to take this image, this figure of... female empowerment, and then show the Joker sort of rattle her cage, and to the point where they did on that cover, I think is where a lot of people are kind of having the issue. I do not think it was necessarily right to remove the cover, strictly speaking, on the sense of referencing the old chapter. Okay. To say, let's say that instead of being on the chapter of whatever, or being on the cover of whatever chapter is being played right now, let's say that they released the Killing Joke, they re-released it, and they put that on the cover. I would not think that would be right to remove it, because that is a very crazy part in her backstory. It is very important to her as a character. It is what essentially defines her as the character further along in the story, becoming Oracle, helping out Batman, and whatever else she can do. That moment sort of defines her. And so to say, here's this dark cover image that is really a fraction of what the hell happens in this chapter. It's not even showing him hold a gun to her face and her in discomfort. Wow, just wait till you read the actual story. Like, I wouldn't think it would be right. I did kind of come around on the fact that if it's not, I can't even word this morning. I'm trying to put my words together here. If it is not, in relation to a current chapter, it's a throwback. As far as I understand, the guy basically was just saying, I was trying to do an homage to the old Killing Joke. I can kind of see where they might pull that instead, because if the comic's lighthearted now, and there's really no reason to show Batgirl in the discomfort, I can see a reason for pulling that. But like I said, there's also just a lot of stink about it, just because they see it and they think, I guess they're just reminded of how ridiculous that story is, and they don't want to see it. And so I was mentioning it to Ross, and we're going to ask him later when we come on the show. And I don't mean to, I'm not going to try to compare necessarily a comic book cover to, let's say, like acts of war. But I was saying to Ross, let's say someone shows you a picture of war. A photographer goes over and takes a picture of something really brutal that happens. And we've seen them. We've seen pictures of Buddhists on fire in protest. Like, can you deny what actually is happening? And again, it's hard to say this because it's a comic book character. It's not real, so that's where I think a lot of people kind of get confused about it. But can you deny what's happened to an extent that is real to the subject because you think that it's particularly offensive or dark? And that's where I think that that pulling the cover was maybe not a good idea.
Yeah,
it sets a precedent here because anytime you make this kind of decision, you tell people, that their opinion matters, and it does. But you also tell people that, okay, well, if so many people complain about this, then we're going to take care of it and remove it. Well, then what does that say about every other person that has a voice about anything ever? It's if you start going on a whim and not considering all the options. Now they also claim that there were violence and threats involved and stuff like that, and of course you kind of have to take that into consideration. And but even then, people threatening violence over this cover art,
it seems like counterproductive. Like, you're showing a violent thing, I'm gonna be violent,
right? Like, that's so
I'll show you.
It's so I don't know, it's interesting to me. I did get a Facebook message here about the post. Let me kind of read through this real quick. All right, so I'll read this out. This is from Sarah. It's a girl I went to school with. She says, no, I don't think that the cover should have been removed. She says, I agree with Tony. If someone didn't like that art, they could just buy one of the others that had a different cover art. There's no point to censor the art if the story is still there. Once you read it anyways, you will have that mental image anyways. And that's a great point. The story never gets removed. You might remove that cover. Yeah. That story about Barbara Gordon still exists. The Killing Joke, that 1998 or 1988, like it's already gone. It's done. It's been around for 30 years now. It's I don't know. So that's a big stink in the nerd world right now, is whether or not pulling this cover was a good idea. Now, like I said,
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like I said, they claim that the reason they pulled the cover had nothing to do with any kind of freedom of expression. It was, this guy's getting death threats. It obviously offends people. We're taking it down. And it's not so much as, you know what, we agree with what you say, or and anything like that. But it seems that they pulled it down because the guy was getting death threats. But even kills me that people would threaten death.
Yeah.
Over this cover art's too violent. I'm going to beat the shit out of you.
I mean, the original cover was still a pretty cool cover. Like, it's got a silhouette of Batman's new suit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all teched out and robotic looking like.
Right.
So it's not like you get like, oh, it's either this cover or this really stupid cover. I mean, it's still a cool cover.
Right. Did you see the original Killing Joke one where Joker's got the camera? I mean, that's also kind of crazy too, I feel like. Maybe not as crazy as him holding Barbara, but the original cover, The Guardian is where I'm getting all my information for this one, so it's got a good article. It's got the cover that got pulled, it's got the original cover for this chapter that got released, and it's got the cover for the old Killing Joke. So you can check all that information out there. But it shows the Joker with his camera with a huge grin saying smile. And that specifically is referencing scenes where he took pictures of Barbara naked. And I just, I guess 1988 or 89 or whenever it released, it was a far different time. We have to be so politically correct and making sure we're not offending anybody these days. But like, that's what radical opinions are, and revolution and everything is not going. You're going against the grain. You're showing a dark story here. Mm-hmm. Of course, there's going to be people that oppose it. Why would you water it down? So, all I don't know. I don't agree. I don't. I'm 50-50 on the cover pull. I don't agree with pulling the cover because of what the cover implies. I am okay with them pulling it if their reasoning is that, you know what, that's not what's happening in the story right now. Batgirl's pretty lighthearted. There's no reason to have this. I can understand that. That makes sense. They also claim that the cover never actually got passed by any of the creative team currently working on the Batgirl comic. That they just sent it in. DC was like, all right, this is really cool. It's a reference to Killing Joke, and they just pushed it forward and didn't show the Batgirl team. The Batgirl team was not in support of showing this comic. Actually, I believe there's a quote from this article. Let me find it real quick. Let's see. It exists. Let me see where it's at. I know it's here. Oh, darn it. I can't find it now. They basically mentioned... okay, I guess it just says here that the Batgirl variant, which the series' regular artist Cameron Stewart later revealed had not been run past the creative team or the writers. And it says it's been one of DC's biggest hits thanks to its light and fun tone. And highlighted for being responsible for getting women back into reading comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. I hate... There's a big problem. You know what's really funny is just a couple months ago, Batgirl was in the news because they had a transgendered villain. And everyone was in an uproar saying, why does the villain have to be transgendered? Are transgendered people bad? No, but some are. Like, why do you have a man villain? Why do you have a female villain? Are all women bad? Are all men bad? No, just that one. Why do you have to generalize?
Mr. Freeze is a bad guy? He's a scientist. Are you saying all scientists are bad guys?
It's so dumb. People just want to get, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of was not in support of the takedown, is because you're giving credit to people bitching about stupid crap. You know, like the transgender thing. There's nothing being said by having a villain that's transgendered. That's that villain who happens to be transgendered. It's a bad person. Not everyone's bad. That's just one. And
their badness defines them.
Right. I don't know. That's neither here nor there, but I did want to talk about that, because sometimes we approach serious topics on the show, and censorship is something that is very real, you know, and something that we kind of have to deal with.
And then internet, like SOPA stuff.
Yeah.
Those are the things we kind of rant on.
Luckily, we should all be on the good side of the line for internet, so that won't ever come back up. We do have some other news to talk about here, so why don't we go ahead and get on with Page Not Found. 404 error. Page not found. Oh, excuse me. Jim Parsons. You know who Jim Parsons is?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't know who Jim Parsons is, you can Google him, because I'm not going to tell you. No, I'm kidding. He plays Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory.
Figure your own stuff out.
Jim Parsons wants to play the Riddler. Speaking of DC. The Big Bang Theory's Jim Parsons says he would like to play the crazed Batman villain, the Riddler, in a superhero film. When asked if he'd ever like to play a superhero, Parsons told MTV UK, quote, I would like to be a villain. I would really like to play the Riddler. I don't feel like they're using the Riddler very much, are they? I can only think of this in, like, his weird, nerdy tone. Like, as Sheldon. I can't think...
So you cut out for a second. You can only think of this what?
I say like, when I read what he says, I can only think of him talking as, like, actually Sheldon. I haven't seen a lot of Big Bang Theory, but I've never seen Jim Parsons interview, like, normally. Like, I've never seen him outside of the Big Bang Theory. So the only thing I can think of is him being like... I don't feel they're using the Riddler very much, are they? Like, just like a weird, like, very pretentious Sheldon. Following a comment with that the Big Bang star, good lord, Big Bang Theory star would be dope as the Riddler, Parsons teased, wouldn't I? You hear that? I would be dope as the Riddler. Girls, tell your friends. See, just the way he talks, he sounds like Sheldon in real life. He must be.
See, I don't think I've ever watched a full episode of Big Bang Theory.
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm really not a fan of The Big Bang Theory. It wins a lot of awards. It seems to be a big hit with a lot of people, and that's totally fine. I didn't like Friends either, and people hate me for that. But the Big Bang Theory really isn't my cup of tea. The last time that Riddler appeared in a Batman film was 1995's Batman Forever, in which he was portrayed by Jim Carrey. Corey Michael Smith currently plays a pre-Riddler Edward Nygma on Fox's Gotham. So what do you think? Well, I guess if you haven't seen The Big Bang Theory, then you probably don't know much about Jim Parsons.
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about him. I mean, he looks like I don't know.
Well, so the first thing I think when I think of the Riddler is that he's not a particularly, I don't know. Okay, so Jim Parsons, to me, at least from what I've seen on Big Bang Theory, is a very thin dude, very small guy. I mean, it could just be like the weird long sleeve shirts that he's always wearing or whatever. But when I think of the Riddler, I kind of think of Jim Carrey's, Jim Carrey's tall and lanky, but he's not thin, Like he's a good, decent, medium-sized, could look like you could beat up a guy if you wanted to, or, if you tried hard enough. That's kind of how I see the Riddler. So immediately I'm kind of like, I don't know if he fits the stature. However, his propensity to sort of be very inquisitive and into riddles and that kind of thing, I think Jim Parsons could actually hit that pretty well. I would be interested in seeing him play the Riddler in a film. I would also love to see Riddler played very sort of closer to the source material. I did not see the 1995 Batman Forever, so I couldn't tell you how well Jim Carrey did. It's actually one of the movies I do want to see. But I think that might have been part of the George Clooney Batman era, which is probably the worst.
No, it was...
Is it Val Kilmer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it wasn't Michael Keaton, it was Val Kilmer. I remember I watched like the first half of it, because that's with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
As Two-Face. And I remember I sat down and started watching it, and then had to get up and leave for something that came up. But it was like, forgot how big of sets they had in like those old 90s Batman films. Like, they're just like huge sets that just like, all of a sudden a car smashes through.
Yeah, all before green screen, when you can just throw everything on a computer. So I haven't seen how Jim Carrey does it, but the thing about the Riddler that makes him so just crazy in the way he is that he can't give you a straight answer. He can't just tell you, yes, that's where the hostage is. He has to say, here, let me give you this riddle first, and Batman has to solve this crazy riddle for it. And the crazy riddle usually involves like, oh, okay, that hostage is being dangled from a rope into a vat of boiling something, and the rope that's dropping down. Solve this riddle before she dies. That kind of thing. Like, and it's really exciting. And when they have it in the games or wherever they've got it, it's so fun to be like, and like get into the head and try to figure out as Batman's doing it what's going on. It's such a cool concept for a character that he's so fascinated with riddles. That's his like calling card. That's how he does everything. I think it would be really neat to see that. Now, whether anything will come from this, I don't know. Like I said, he seems kind of. I don't feel like he fits the stature of the Riddler at all. I don't know how tall Jim Parsons is, but I feel like he would have to thicken up just a little bit, just a tad, like not too much. You don't need to be a thick guy for the Riddler, but he's. I would call Jim Parsons scrawny, and I don't think the Riddler. It seems like a scrawny character to me.
See, I do.
You really do, okay?
Like, because the way he goes about getting victory isn't through physical prowess.
Sure.
And through he doesn't have to. I don't know. He doesn't have to compete like that. Sorry, my phone. Why it beeps? I have a tweak. Sorry, this just kind of bugs me. That when I say "Hey Siri," it doesn't work now. Of course not.
Let me show you this cool thing.
If I say that, it'll just beep like that. And like anything, stuff that sounds similar to that will make it beep. Okay, end rant. But I don't see the Riddler as a bigger guy. I see him more as a slender. Like he's more confident because he's going up against him like in a battle of wits, where he doesn't really have to go face to face with Batman.
That's true. I mean, you don't really have to have.
That's kind of how I see the Riddler. But I just think it's these cast it's an interview where it's like, if you could play a Superman, what would you like? If you could play a superhero, what would you do? And everyone's like, oh, he wants to play this guy, and a bunch of hype gets about it, and like, it's just because he said he wanted to play it. Like,
he's not going to play
Riddler. I'd love to play Superman. I'd love to play Superman.
It's out there now. At least DC can contact if they wanted to.
Is it I can't remember his name. The guy from the Fast and Furious movies.
Hopefully not Vin Diesel. Is that who you're trying to think of?
The black guy.
The black guy?
I can't remember his name.
I don't have a clue. I've only seen one Fast and Furious.
I think he was in pretty much all of them. But he like tweeted saying he wanted to play Green Lantern. And he posted a bunch of photoshopped pictures of him in a Green Lantern suit.
Confirmed! That's funny. Did you ever see those? The old, I think it was a Tim Burton Superman. And it had Nicolas Cage as Superman.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, he had his long ass hair, and you're like, bro, like, what is even going on now? Crazy stuff. But cool. Let's see if anything comes from that. Also, well, I guess we'll also talk about stuff people didn't know maybe in DC coming up. Khal Drogo, or Jason Momoa, is playing Aquaman in the Batman vs. Superman film. If you've seen Game of Thrones, he's the sort of barbarian king, I guess. I don't know much about Game of Thrones, but Jason Momoa, I guess he was also in the recent Conan, which wasn't very good, but he's playing Aquaman, and then The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is playing Black Adam. Yep. Which is interesting. I was talking to Keith about it last night. I said, can you have Black Adam without Shazam? Like, are they not like a weird, like...
They're making a Shazam movie.
Okay, so is that what it's for? I wasn't sure what movie it was for. So now I'm curious who the hell's going to play Shazam, because they're Mr. Captain Marvel, or whatever the hell his goddamn name is, because they've changed it. He used to be...
Billy Batson.
So, I'm trying to think. Was his name Captain Marvel or Mr. Marvel?
I believe it was Captain Marvel, and then they switched it to Shazam.
Right. Because
I remember originally it wasn't DC, and DC was like super upset because basically Captain Marvel was essentially Superman.
Okay.
Did the flight, invulnerability, super strength, yada yada, was the man. And then they bought out that comic book series and kind of like moved him into the Justice League. And then I want to say that they switched to Shazam just to stop confusion about Marvel versus DC.
Well, yeah, because I'm pretty sure they have... I think Marvel has their own Captain or Mr. Marvel. And they've got a Miss Marvel, too. I know that, or Miss Marvel, or however they're supposed to pronounce it.
I think they have a Mr. and Mrs. Marvel, where this is like Captain Marvel. Because they're making a Mrs. Marvel movie.
Oh, boy. Of course they are. Everyone's making movies. So, yeah, and the Black Adam... is interesting because both Shazam and Black Adam are very imposing people. Very imposing. Buffer than Superman. And The Rock, Dwayne, can do it. He can do it because he is huge up on the upper body. I'm trying to think, unless they get, or Brock Lesnar, or like, I'm trying to think who, they're not going to do that guy, but like another dude with like just a huge upper frame to play Shazam. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I don't know that many buff guys in Hollywood business, but
I mean, given enough time and money and proper trainings and steroids, a lot of given enough time, actors like Henry Cavill.
Okay,
he was like a slender guy, but for Superman, he got huge.
Yeah, he looks awesome in Superman. It's
like he's a burly dude. So like, if someone's committed enough and they find someone who's already like has a pretty broad shoulders, it's like it's a frame that just like throw muscle on me. I think they'll be alright. Like, have you seen the picture of The Rock as like a 15-year-old kid? It's just him like sitting in his house like on a computer desk like this, but his shoulders are just like wide. He's super slender, but his shoulders are just like
massive.
Just like super broad. It's just like throw a bunch of muscle on that kid and let's see what he looks like.
Not in DC news here. Diamond Watch costs $18 million. So if you were thinking about getting the Apple Watch for $10,000, maybe this one's also in your ballpark. If you thought the $10,000 Apple Watch was pricey, the new Jacob & Company licensed watch costs $18 million. Here, I'm going to send you... Uh-oh. Are you still there, Tony? Tony,
I'll take two.
Are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know if my internet's being jank or what, but it was given.
Yeah, you were starting to cut out too. I could kind of make out everything.
All right, here, I'm going to send you the link.
I'll take two of those watches.
Two of them?
I'll take two of them.
Have you? Did you see it? Did you look it up?
No, but
here,
just because it's got a high price tag, I'll take it. Here,
I'll send it to you. There you go. It's a badass looking watch. I'll say that. Originally reported on Forbes, 3 factors are key to understanding the watch's price tag: the diamonds, which there are lots of them, the movement style, and the affiliation with Flavio Briatore, which who knows who the heck Flavio Briatore is? I don't. That's for sure. The creator of the Billionaire brand. Which, again, is something I'm unfamiliar with, which explains why it's called the Billionaire Watch, despite costing millions, not billions. When it comes to carat weight, the watch clocks in at 260 carats of emerald-cut diamonds, which form the case along with the bracelet in case you're worried about fakes. Each of the diamonds has been GIA certified to validate their authenticity. At the center is a rectangle watch dial that features skeletonized movement.
That's a pretty baller watch.
It is. It's awesome. It's an awesome watch.
Not gonna lie, that's a baller
watch. Says fun fact: the Tour Billion was developed. I don't understand here. I'm getting crazy internet issues here. What the hell's going on, man?
Yeah, you're seeming kind of fuzzy.
What on my computer could be doing this? I'm going to hang up on you and I'm going to reinitiate the call.
Well, it just cleared up.
Weird. I didn't really do anything. I'm still going to...
It's like significantly better right now.
That's good. Let me refresh the call real quick. I'm going to refresh. I'm going to hang up and call you just to be sure.
All right.
We're hanging up on Tony and now we're calling him back. And he's back. So I closed out of Steam. There's no telling if maybe I was accidentally downloading something on Steam. Let's hope that was it. No, it's still breaking. No. Damn it! What the hell is going on? Hold on a second. I don't know. I can't really update. So hold on a second. Sorry, everybody. Technical issues. We're gonna fix this. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to shut down the stream for just a moment, and then I'm starting it back up.
Okay.
The recording should still be going. So the stream, I think, should be down at the moment. We're recording. This is a little secret show we're doing right now. No one else can hear this live. This is what
talk about how much everyone is awesome.
Yes, indeed.
And they will know it.
So yeah, if you're listening into the show on audio, or see the video show later on, you'll see this a little bit. No one else got to see this, so enjoy. Starting the stream back up.
Lots of stuff happens.
Yeah. All right. Well,
stuff.
What the hell? I started the stream back up. I changed the FPS, and it's still not changing. What the hell? Forget it. I have to go on. The show must go on, and we're just going to have to see what happens here. We're doing crazy on time, so we're going to skip another news yet again. I feel bad, but I should have known with the Kojima stuff and Batgirl that we would have talked for a very long time at the beginning of the show. So let's do a couple Would You Rathers here. Let me play a little, here's our intro for this.
Get up! Jacob, keep your shirt on! No!
All right, you can't make me. Would you rather have a bad haircut every time it's cut, or have one time bad plastic surgery? And the plastic surgery would be on your face. It would be a facial plastic.
Bad haircut.
Bad haircut every time you got it cut.
Because, I mean, with enough, like, gel or whatnot, you could probably make it look like it's supposed to be bad. Like, It's a new style.
Bringing
So
it
with
back.
a botched face surgery.
Yeah, that would be awful.
I like my face.
Yeah, I like my face and your face as well. I'm gonna go with bad haircut. Let's see here. Wow. So I'm trying to think if we've had one so one-sided before. 76,000 people voted. 96% said that they would rather have a bad haircut.
Wow.
4% said that they would rather have bad plastic surgery. That's one of the most definitive ones we've ever done.
All right, I got one for you.
Go ahead.
Would you rather be kind-hearted with an IQ of 50 or a sociopath with an IQ of 150?
Now here's my question, because I'm already leaning towards the sociopath answer. Does that mean that I have to do so being a sociopath just means I am incredibly socially inept, right? Are you saying that I'm like a killer?
You're not a killer, but you're just creepy and kind of crazy. And don't really care about anyone else.
I think I still might go with the sociopath, to be honest. Oh. Is it bad that we desire intelligence that much? Given, having a high IQ doesn't mean you're going to be Stephen Hawking, but you have the capacity to be, at least.
Mm-hmm. I would... I think I'd probably I'd be the kind-hearted idiot.
Ah!
I would. We could make a great show out of that.
You definitely could. Oh, that's so funny. The Odd Couple. It's being rebooted.
Yep.
Yeah.
We made it a podcast.
Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny. I wish I had statistics for that one, actually. I really wish that I could figure out what people voted on that one. I've got a good one for you here. And then I guess we can probably switch over to Ross, because I think he's been waiting for us. Would you rather... was a good one. Would you rather spend the rest of your life in jail, or 1 year as the middle link in a human centipede?
Rest of my life in jail.
Oh. Now, it says here that the operation is reversed at the end of the year. There will be no, you won't have, stitches or scars on your lips. Obviously that may not be very feasible, but we'll say for the sake of this, not doing the 1 year as a centipede. You would rather...
No.
Life in jail.
No. I'd just be like that hard dude who's just you don't mess with anyone.
Right.
I'll headbutt you.
Yeah, I guess
no.
I guess I'll do the same thing, because, you've seen Human Centipede, right? We all know what happened. So you've seen Human Centipede, right?
Nope, I will not see it.
No, you will not see it.
I know what happens. I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, this can't be a real movie. And then it was, and I was just like, no?
I haven't seen the second one. I did watch the first one because my sister thought the premise was so crazy that she just had to see it. She was like, this is so out there, we have to watch this. So I went over one morning and we watched it at her house, and it actually is not very gory. It's not very explicit. It's a lot of, the type of thing where you see the mouth, and then you don't see anything in front of it. You just see the, and that's it. And so it's a lot of implied horror. You don't actually see a lot of
It's because of the implication.
No, absolutely. It's still pretty bad, but it's surprisingly not nearly as gory as I expected. I expected it to be a little bit crazier. But I guess what could get any crazier than sewing 3 people together and having them all poop through the same system? Which is what sucks, is the middle character. Well, actually, I guess the end link would be pretty bad.
Yeah.
You get the best end of the stick, I guess, no pun intended, being in the front. Yeah, we don't have to talk about it anymore. It's kind of gross. So rest of your life in jail it is. 55,000 people voted on this. 59% said they would rather spend their life in jail. 41% said that they would rather spend a year as a human centipede as the middle link. We have a lot of perverts out there. The middle link. You're never mind. I'm not going any further with that. All right, well, that's it. That's our Would You Rather today. We had some good, strong ones.
Okay, I feel like a year as the middle length of the human centipede would feel so much longer than life in prison. Like, in prison, you can, like, read books, you can go outside, work out, you get food, actual food, you get health insurance. If you bum your wrist, they'll take care of you. You're a human centipede for a year. It's not like you're going, all right, shift's over, unhook you guys, walk out the room. Like there's someone stuck to your noose for a year, and you're stuck to someone else's noose.
That's awful. That's awful. All right, well, let's go to a much human centipede brought to you by Sarah Marie Dillard. Get her to listen to this episode. Be like, hey, you should listen to it. We played your song, and then we've now got this. All right, so everyone knows Tony's been sneaking off at night to do his music gigs. When he's not being a Green Lantern and saving the world, he's consoling the hearts of many as a drummer for people. And he one of the people he's drummed for is a lady by the name of Sarah Marie Dillard. And Tony came to me, and I asked him before. I said, hey, if you get any music, let me know, man. I'd love to play it on the show. And he said, well, here you go. Here's a little something, and it's a great song. I listened to it. It's great. You play the cajon, which is the instrument. We talked about it. You sit on it. It's hollowed, usually, I think, in different areas, so you can get different sounds as you kind of rap on it and drum on it.
Yeah, and there's like, hit it more. It's just pretty much just a big rectangle, and it's got a snare running across the, like, I guess, like the vertical axis right there in the middle. And then you hit it kind of in the middle, and it's more of like a bassy sound, and then more towards the rim, and it's more of like a snare. Okay. And then you just kind of play with it to create different sounds. So it's pretty fun.
Definitely an interesting instrument. I watched a little bit of I watched the video as I was recording it, and it's just fun to watch her play and her sing, and you doing the drumming on it. So this is a song called "The Coal Miner." No album name. It's just something that she's done, released as a single, basically, with Tony on drums, or at least it's the percussion, I should say. Tony on the percussions. When we come back, we will have Ross. We will talk a little bit about the Batgirl cover, and then I believe his Karmafied segment actually ties in to the discussion. So we will have that. Until then, console yourselves with the smooth vocals from Sarah Marie Dillard. We'll be back after this break. See you on the other side.
I gave my life to a coal miner to light his way in the dark. And now there sits a lamp of coal where once I found a heart. He dug way down in the deep, for secrets big enough to keep. Saw his dirty face again. So I gave my love to an old cowhand to keep him warm on the range. And he gave me a pair of pearl-handled pistols in exchange. He's out there singing never never gonna ride. Never gonna ride. 'Cause I've never seen his dirty face again. So I gave my love to a music man to keep his soul afloat. And now there is an empty space where once my heart called home. I'll look you in the eye all day, every day. But I'll never give anything away. And I'll never see his dirty face again.
Give me a little love.
Okay. Christmas party invitations have already been sent out. Have you received yours yet from the Labor Party?
Look, funnily enough, I think I understand I figure strongly on the Labor Party's Christmas invitation, but I don't actually think they want me to come to their party, and in any event, it's quite an expensive party, I believe.
How do you feel about being the Christmas Grinch?
Well, look, this is the Labor Party yet again revealing its relentless negativity, isn't it?
The coalition invite, interestingly, says people need to be mindful that any damage to furniture, venue, goods on the night will be at a cost to the person responsible. What kind of shindig are you planning?
Look, our parties are always exciting. Never a dull moment at the coalition Christmas party.
I hope there are no walls being punched. We'll leave it there.
Oh, shit. Hold on. I can't. Where's my clips?
Tomatoes were like black. Tomatoes
There
were
they
really
are.
black.
Toronto doesn't have bums.
You are listening to a Fly Science Productions podcast.
Oh, boy. I want to apologize firsthand about that song, ladies and gentlemen. It's a tremendous song, and I did not cap it loud enough, and I'm severely sorry, because it should have been louder, because I heard her singing better, heard guitar and Tony's drums, and I feel like an asshole. So I apologize, Sarah, and if you ever do listen to this episode, please forgive me. Give me more music. I'll play your stuff on the show again.
Fun fact, we played my guitarist Jordan's cover of Ledges by Noah Gunderson a couple weeks ago.
Yes, I do remember that now.
This is his sister.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Jordan Dillard and Sarah Dillard. So it's like a musical little family.
Dang, impressive. And here I am not recording any music at all. I did get, although this shows my commitment, I did get new strings last week. I haven't even taken them out of the package. So, but I did get new strings for my guitar. Exactly. So the next step is already started. I'll tell you why I haven't opened up the package. I hate restringing my guitar. It is one of the least favorite things I can. Now, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, bro, it takes you like 5 minutes." I'm like, "Yeah, it takes you 5 minutes." The way I was taught to do it, it takes me like a couple minutes just to do one string, because my teacher was like, "Here's how you do it. You do it this way, and you do it calm, and you stretch the string a little bit, and you do it this way." So that's how I learned. That's how I do it. So I take like a couple minutes per string. So it takes me 15, 20 minutes to sit down and do everything to make sure it's all tuned up, try and stress test it a little bit. And I'll tell you what I did do, though. I couldn't figure out what strings to buy, and I had been buying these Zach Wild strings for the longest time because they were thick, and I wanted really thick, good strings, right? And I couldn't figure out what strings I wanted to get in because I was like, I don't know if I want the thick ones because, you know, sometimes it just takes out some of the treble. Like, you know, you don't get a very clear tone out of it. Mm-hmm. So the guy I work for, or my boss rather, I guess, he was like, well, why don't you just like buy the strings of a band you like, or, you know, the guitarist, you know, if you like their sound. I was like, hey, that's a brilliant idea. So I looked up Pete Loeffler from Chevelle because I've always loved the way his guitars sound. Now, given a lot of that has to do with the model, but I looked up the strings he used, bought those, and so now I'm going to use those and see what I think about those. I've tried elixirs, which a lot of people sort of talk about, but they're like super. They're kind of thin and they're super easy to move around on. But like after going to the huge thick strings to these elixirs, it felt like I was playing on like a baby toy. And I didn't like how non-heavy they felt. So I'm sure these will probably feel the same way, to be honest. Let's get Ross on this call. Without further ado, I tried to set up the stream to accommodate for him joining in. Let's see. I started to mess with the video. This happens every week. This happens every week. Oh, it's going to be easy this week. Hello, Ross Bays.
Hey!
He's here. He's in the house. Alrighty. We have a theme song for you that we play. Here's our theme song for you.
Well, that asshole.
Ross is, you know, distinguished, got his big old beard.
It's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it.
There's amazing things going on every day.
I may not be good, but I'm expensive.
It's Ross and I, and then a bunch of women. Don't let society tell you what to do. He has the power.
Brody.
Ross Bays, welcome to the show.
What's up, fellas? 49 already. 49. Just in time for a human centipede party, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm excited. I'm surprised, everybody. That was what we were going to do next week for the show. We were going to broadcast as a human centipede. All three of us.
I got the back.
Yeah, we're not even one episode away, really. I mean, we're a week away from it. Got some good stuff in mind, and it's going to be, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a test. I was going to tell you guys this off the air, but I guess I can tell you now. It's not really a secret. This is going to be a test of our broadcasting abilities because we're going to have a tight schedule. We're going to have a tight stuff that we have to get in, get out, get done, move on, entertain, keep going, which should excite the audience, should excite you guys who are listening in. And then should also excite you guys as well because it'll put our abilities to the test. We've been training for a year, basically. to get up to this. Now, I was thinking about this before we jump into the Batgirl thing here. Can you believe that we got so close to actually, like, doing an episode a week? Like, it's a year, and we hit 50. Like, normally that means we only missed, on average, or not on average, rather, but we missed 2 episodes that we either didn't make up or whatever the deal is, which means we did a pretty damn good job because we had to shift the show quite a bit sometimes in order to, you know, fit schedules and make sure that we got the content we needed. And out of, you know, 365 days, there was only 2 episodes that we weren't able to keep up with. And
plus, you played a big part of that because you saved it sometimes with doing a solo show, which was pretty decent. So good on you.
Well, I thank you for the compliment. But yeah, I'm excited. 50th is going to be a big time for us, and then we get a little bit of a break. We get to relax a little bit, take our shoes off, kind of kick up, and then we come back and hit hard with. I've been thinking of it. I'll tell you what. I've been thinking of the show in like seasons. So we're just about to finish our season 1 finale here.
50 episodes.
Yeah, 50 episodes.
Season 1 of Pokemon. Pokemon, I'm pretty sure, had 52 episodes.
And then we disappear, but then we come back fresh with season 2. All new cast. None of us will be there. No, I'm kidding. We're
going to leave you with a giant cliffhanger. One of us dies.
Yes, that's true.
jinxed us.
I will neither confirm nor deny whether or not we've secured Keanu Reeves for season 2. I would just leave it at that. Anyways, enough with the. It's a little too happy, so let's go ahead and talk about dark stuff.
Weekly buzzkill.
So we talked briefly about the Batgirl thing, and we don't have to talk specifically about it a ton here, but I just wanted to kind of get your opinion, Ross, on what you thought for this whole Batgirl thing. The idea of, I guess presenting material that references something that, like I said, regardless of whether it's a comic or not, it's real to the characters. So for all intents and purposes, it has happened. How do you feel about pulling it as a form of, well, we don't want to offend people, because the story doesn't actually change. So is it right? Do you feel like, well, sure, people's sensibilities, we want to make sure that that we're not offending people. People will want to like the comic or whatever. Or do you feel like, do you feel that it is a form of censorship? Maybe it's not. Maybe you don't think it is. What is your opinion on the situation?
Well, I mean, the artist decided from the feedback of this community, whoever it was. I don't know if it was specifically fans or if it was friends of fans or bigger organizations that found out about it or whatever. But from the protests or from the feedback that happened, the artist decided to request pulling the cover, which DC did. So I can't necessarily say that I agree that it was censorship because it wasn't forced upon them.
Sure.
But in the same way, they obviously, whether it's the artist drew it and then gave it to DC, and then whoever at DC decided that they're going to put this as the cover, like there were a bunch of decisions that were made that says, we want to do this.
Right.
Now, when you can't do something that you want to do, I mean, I guess it is a certain level of censorship, I suppose, but I guess my opinion of this is, well, first of all, like, I don't follow comics. I didn't know what the story was behind it. So when I saw the comic for the first time, all I saw was Joker with Batgirl, the tear, and the gun hanging over his shoulder. Like, that's all I saw. So, and for me, it's like, okay, well, it's the Joker. It's what he does. Right. I mean, he's a villain, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So my initial reaction to it was, okay, I don't get it. So then having to go through the backstory of what that cover represented, then I started to see, okay, well, this is what that means. How do I feel about it? Well, I'm in agreement with you guys in the sense that this is part of Batgirl's story. It's who she is. It's a part of her history. It will never go away.
Right.
Because it has happened. And if you're celebrating, and this is kind of what the article that you sent me was talking about, was if you're celebrating or you're honoring this, anniversary of the Joker being this ultimate villain, I mean, you have to hit on one of those reasons that makes him an ultimate villain. Mm-hmm. You want to be reminded that this guy is the coup de grace, if you will, of villains for a reason.
Right.
So it makes sense to me. And really, that was my initial take on it as of yesterday when you sent me the link, because I had no previous experience of any of that.
Sure.
So, of course, what do? I want to be schooled. I want to be educated on the different aspects and layers of the equation.
Sure.
Because
as everyone should, when you have an opinion or when you're presented with one, investigate. Don't just say, well, that doesn't look like the way it should be, So good on you, Ross, for teaching our listeners how they, critical thinking.
Don't use me as a role model. But I will say, out of today's topic, I am drinking out of my Wonder Woman cup. So cheers to my favorite internet Facebook chef, Sherry Mercer. Captain America! Nice. And also cheers to my... and she doesn't know it yet, but my favorite internet crush, Jennifer Stewart. But anyway, back on topic. So what I did was I went and I talked to my wife, who, of course, I knew even just being a female would have a different opinion, and sure. I wanted to get her take. And she studies psychology. She's she has some background in terms of some of these issues that are there because of what she does. So I showed her the cover, and she said, okay, it's the cover. It's the Joker. It's what he does. But then I told her the backstory, and the conversation took a very sharp turn, which will lead into this topic. And really what I wanted to cover today, and I'm really glad that it kind of went this way because I learned a lot, and I don't know if it's necessarily things that I'm glad that I learned, but
sure.
it is what it is. So we take it as it is. So anyway, the cover is pulled by the artist request from DC. That asks the question, where do we draw the line? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If, let's say that, and we'll just go completely hypothetical here. Let's say that DC says, you know what, you're right. We didn't realize this was going to have such an impact. We're going to change Batgirl's history so that she wasn't attacked. She wasn't, and even whether it's insinuated or not, she wasn't sexually assaulted. She wasn't raped. She got into a car accident, flew through the windshield, and she became Batgirl from that experience. She was paraplegic. They chopped off her bottom and they made it all robotic, and now she's Batgirl.
Sounds like an awesome idea, actually.
Right, it's coming, and I'm going to make a lot of money. But like, let's say that happens, and then all of a sudden, like, real people that have gone through an accident like that protest and say, why do you have to include this, and remind us, which is one of the worst moments of our lives, that that's what we went through and that's what it was like. I can't even read a comic book without this getting thrown in there. I want you to take it down. So DC does it. Where do we draw the line between, like, you have to have some kind of conflict in every story, and every conflict is going to hit somebody in some way, right? So where do you draw the line? I mean, how many movies and books or video games do we have that are based on war and battle? I mean, that's a part of humanity as it is as a whole, but you can't listen to every single veteran that says, well, you're reminding me of the worst moments of my life. I can't even watch a movie without being reminded that I lost 12 of my friends on one day in March in 2003. I mean, that's a whole different aspect. So it does beg the question, where do you draw the line? Now, when I asked my wife this, she said, why does there have to be a line? So that's what I want to throw to you guys. When it comes to drawing the line, what's your first thought?
Let's see. Why does there have to be a line? So,
because we can't all just get along like normal. Like,
I mean, it's true. It's true.
Normal people.
Like, there is no normal. Really. Everyone is.
You're right.
I don't know.
So
like,
when you ask about, just some clarification here, I guess. When you ask about why does there have to be a line? Are we saying? Wow, that's like so meta philosophical. My brain's hurting trying to like think about it. I'm like, how do I make sense of this? Are we saying that we should just not like censorship or not censorship? That everything should just exist, like, and it's sort of its thing. Like when you do something, you make a statement. There's no political correctness. It just is. Like, is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that there is no line, meaning we never go that far?
There's two ways you can look at this. And one of them is you don't draw a line in terms of you take this instance that it is what it is for what it is, and you say, okay, they pulled the cover. This story is over. And then you take the next one and you go from there, and then you make a decision. But at the same time, you have to have some level of balance, because if they pulled this cover because it pissed off these people, they're going to have to pull this cover when it pisses off these people, and then you can't show this movie because these people don't like it. Right. You have to have a line somewhere. And on the other side of it, maybe there shouldn't be a line because it's kind of what you guys said in the top of the show, where every situation and how we accept that situation is our responsibility personally, that if we don't want the cover, we don't buy it. If you don't want to watch the movie, you don't watch it. Other people want to, let them. That's their own prerogative, and it's our personal responsibility. And there doesn't need to be a line because, as you said, everything just kind of exists for what it is, and it's each individual's responsibility to either accept that or don't accept it or whatever. So it's tricky.
It is. Like, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, because that isn't, like, what happened in The Killing Joke isn't the continuity anymore. Like, they rebooted literally the entire DC universe just a few years ago in the New 52. It's like that story literally has nothing to do with what's going on now. It's just like a throwback thing. So, like, that's not what they're about to go read about. Right. And, like, you didn't know when you saw the cover, you just thought, oh, it's just Joker being Joker.
Right.
Like,
it's interesting to me.
Anymore. Right.
It's interesting to me that your opinion would change after knowing the backstory. That really, because I would think it would be vice versa. I would think someone who saw the cover and didn't know the horrors that happened to whatever character in any situation, I would think that someone who would see the cover, if they were offended, would then be offended and be like, what the hell is this doing on a comic book? I don't get it. And then you tell them the backstory, and they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's really dark, but I guess it makes sense. That's what I would have thought. It's interesting that you would say, oh, that seems innocuous. Oh, shit, that's what really happened? And then have it seem much more dastardly, I guess.
But now, think about this. Using that as an example, and I don't even know if this is going to work because it just popped in my head, but like you said that, and then what made me think of was, how many times do you say something to somebody that's just like a funny comment, and then you realize that like their mom died like last year or something. You're like,
I guess that's true.
It's the context, right? You're like,
that's
oh my
true.
God. There's a backstory that you didn't know about, and it seemed innocuous. When you learned the backstory, you were like, oh, no, I feel like an ass.
I guess that's true. I guess that is that's a very good example.
Yes!
Let me put that one on the chart here. Okay, Ross gets one.
Finally, I'm on the board.
Gold star.
Yeah, good point. That was a good point.
All right, so let me start to go into a little bit of why I'm so, like, when I say this started a dialogue between me and my wife last night, it was a good long while of us going back and forth, and there was some raised voices, and there was a lot of defensive, like it was heavy. But here's, and you'll see why it kind of went down this route. The backstory of Batgirl, whether it applies now as far as like the DC universe and the story of her, like it still exists in the realm of the comic and everything else. So it has to be considered. The reason that it's such a big deal, like when people find out the backstory and then they put it in there, like it does kind of go back to the idea that like this is a comic book. This wasn't just something that happened to somebody. This was written by somebody, which doesn't help that it was a man. That's a whole different side of the story.
Sure,
but a man wrote this, and men are the ones that are the majority of sexually assaulting people and raping people and everything else. So you have this man that wrote this. It was his choice to write this. Why can't she just be a heroine who decides that she's sick of the state of the world? She has to go through like you're assuming that she was sexually assaulted or she was raped or whatever the case might be. Let's say she was, right? To keep it simple, because we don't know for sure. Mm-hmm. But she goes through this, and then now it's part of her story, but it was written, right? So this is why it caused such an outrage among these communities of people. And these are some statistics that most people don't know. I didn't know, and I'll tell you what, when I heard some of these come out, I immediately got angry until I realized that it was true. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so 1 out of every 6 American women have been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. 1 out of every 6 American women. Now, when I heard that, I was like, nope, absolutely not. There's no way. And I immediately got mad. But through CDC and, American Health Organization and all kinds of things, like these are the estimates based on, and when I say estimates, this is what I mean. Less than 5% of college students who are sexually assaulted report the crime to the police. So there's this massive underreporting that happens, because you look at what happens when a woman gets, well, even when a man, when you get sexually assaulted, you get raped, you don't want to tell anybody.
Right.
Because you're ashamed of yourself and you feel like you did something wrong. And think about it as a guy. Guys get raped. Like, they do. It happens. And at the same time, like, you don't want to tell anybody that.
Yeah.
You know, there's all kinds of different layers to that. So there's less than 5% of college students that are sexually assaulted report the crime to the police. Now, so that's 1 out of every 6 American women victim of an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. 1 in 4 women, 4, in their lifetime will be sexually assaulted in some way. 1 out of 4.
That's crazy. So that's crazy. 25%.
It's ridiculous. So now it also goes down this other thing, which I'm going to throw this out there like a buckshot and just see where it lands. Okay. It is against the law for you to engage in sexual activities with someone who is under the influence because they cannot legally give their consent. Were you aware of this?
Yeah. I guess maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's not really been
in a way, right?
Like
you thought, okay,
but,
well,
yeah.
But like my interpretation of this was like, first I immediately got mad because I'm thinking, how many times have I said, no, honey, have a little bit more wine? You know, it's date night, have some fun,
right?
But I mean, that's my wife. It's different, but I mean. If I'm on a date with somebody and we are getting drunk and we're having a good time, and at no point does she say no, but we're both completely like gone.
Right.
The fact of the matter is that the law says that she can charge me with rape because she cannot consent to that in her state.
Right.
See,
I would have guessed that.
Like,
yeah.
For that, when it comes to both parties, like if you're saying the woman doesn't have. Like, is it in the right frame of mind to say yes? What makes the guy?
Right, absolutely. So why couldn't he say, well, she raped me?
Right.
Right? Because they both, right. And so the direction that I took that argument, because of course at this point I was pissed, because I'm thinking, I'm looking at it from my point of view. Right. I'm on a date with a girl, we're having a good time, we both get drunk, and we know what we're going to do. We're going to have a good time. Right. So we get drunk, we end up having sex, we regret it, but now she can charge me with rape because we regret that, because she couldn't give her consent. So the direction that I went was, well, what if she gets hammered, gets into a car, and kills somebody? Are you saying that she didn't have the wherewithal to know she was getting into a car? I mean, maybe she didn't, but she did it. There's got to be consequences, right?
Right.
So this went a lot of different ways. And the whole point was that these facts that actually exist, that are the real deal facts, are something that have to be considered when you talk about like the Batgirl cover and the fact that she could have been raped, that she could have been sexually assaulted, and now it's in a comic book, somebody wrote it, and we have to consider the fact that girls grow up learning from a very young age how not to be raped. Reality. That's hard. I mean, it's hard, you know. But a lot of people don't know these statistics, so it's kind of at least some kind of window into the fact that, oh, damn, I wasn't aware that it was that drastic,
right,
of an issue. So okay, maybe now I can see that it wasn't just like 10 people that said I don't want this cover. It was a lot more, and for stronger reasons than I initially expected to read.
Right. I guess my question then, and I don't know if this relates into anything that you have continuing, but such a delicate topic to tackle.
Really, and especially because you got 3 white males talking about it.
Well, let me tell you about this and what I understand. No, my question, and this is on a general. I'm going to generalize this, okay? Even though generalizing, I used to have I think I've said this on the show probably. I had my martial arts teacher had this famous saying, and it was actually one of my favorites because it's absolutely true. Would say, no generalization is worth a damn, including this one. And it's great because you can't just take everything and clump it all together. But anyways, talking unspecifically about trauma in general, are we then required to as a society, not approach certain topics as horrors because it's an actual thing that exists. Now, your point is that rape and women is a much probably more dire thing than many men realize. And it's true. The statistics you just read us, that's incredible. And not in a good way. It's incredible that that's a thing. And, you know, it's easy for us to be like, holy shit, that happens because we're all three pretty good dudes, you know? But I don't know. It's hard. I have this problem when I'm talking about race as well. I have two friends at work that we actually talk about racial tension a lot. And not that this matters, but one of the guys is from Laos and one of the guys is half Vietnamese, half Chinese. And we all talk about it, and they have strong opinions on racism, and they can talk about it openly. And every time I try to talk, I tell them, I don't feel comfortable saying anything because I'm a white male, you know? A lot of people, like, we have white privilege. The idea that just because, you know, I don't think of it. I don't think that what I'm doing because of my skin color, I'm getting favoritism, but that's because I'm on the receiving end of it, you know?
Right.
It's on the same thing here. When I think about the Barbara Gordon story and something like rape, and you come to me and you say, well, here's the statistics. It's really bad. You know, here's this. I see that and I go, you know, I don't want to say that I see it as empowering, but that character does not falter because of what happens. She stumbles, but she comes back, and she's, you know, again, it's a written character, completely fake, but she comes back and becomes something else from that. And, you know, not necessarily in vengeance, but despite everything the character of the Joker did to her.
Right.
I see that as a very strong way to say, here's something that's very serious that a lot of people struggle with, that obviously women have an issue with. And here is a model, you know, not a model in the sense of, you know, like Cindy Crawford, but here's a model, an example of a character, fake or not, trying to rise above the, what's the word? Rise above the complications, rise above the issues, to say that, you know, this awful thing happened, but that's not, I don't know. It's hard to speak of because I'm not on I'm not on that end of saying, well, I can sympathize. I mean, I can say rape's awful, but I can't truly understand it because I haven't been raped. And so it's, I don't know if I can offer a valid opinion on the subject if we're going to say, you know, should this be an acceptable topic because it exists as a nightmare for so many people and it's so real for them? Because it is not real for me, you know? Like I said, it could be, but it's not. And for a lot of men, it's not an issue. Like I said, it's the same thing with race. And you tell a white dude, you know, racism exists. He goes, what the hell? No, it doesn't. I'm not racist. Well, guess what? Just because you're not racist and just because you're black buddy and you guys can make jokes about it and, you know, like, just because he doesn't feel it and you don't feel it and whatever, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means that you're not experiencing it. You're not on the receiving end of it and all that. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I told you, I will try and be bold enough to say that I see it as a method of empowering a character that has dealt with a trauma that is so deep and resounds with so many people, you know, so much of one gender, I guess, on a level of reality that I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a particularly distasteful thing. I've also felt that about a lot of things, though. Like you said, like with war, you know, every war veteran that says, well, I had friends that died in the war. That movie had a guy where his buddy died in the war. Like, oh, so we can't play that movie now? I've always generally erred on the side of just because it's a reality doesn't mean that we can't touch on it. And in fact, I oftentimes think that helps lend weight to what you're trying to do. Now, whether in 1988, if they were really thinking, sure, we want to show this girl coming from the absolute deepest depths back up to the top to kick that guy's ass, you know, or to show that she cannot be broken because of what this man did to her. Whether that was their goal, we won't know. And guess what? It probably was not their goal. If we know anything about men from history, is that we've always just kind of tried to be subversive, I think might be the term. I'm not sure. Anyways,
Tony, you're so quiet.
I mean, Jake just kind of went on a rant.
I'm sorry. It's
and I was like, "Is a lot of good points."
It's hard to touch on, and I don't know. I stand my decision, but like I said, or not my decision, but my idea that I think, that touching on the reality of something like this can be, I don't want to say beneficial, but can be done and not be distasteful. Yeah. I'm not going to say that's always the case. It's obviously not. There's, I've seen movies that have depicted rape, and sometimes it's you see it and it doesn't help the thing at all. But then sometimes it, look at the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. That was actually a movie a lot of people I heard would not watch because they heard about the rape scene. Also a fictional character, by the way. But that particular scene in that film fuels her and motivates her for everything that follows.
Right.
And then you look at a movie like, let's see, it was Last House on the Left, and it opens up with a girl being raped in the woods, and then the movie's a horror movie. It's actually a kind of bad one, but her parents find out and then decide that they're going to kill the killers. And so it said that just kind of comes into dumb entertainment. Probably wasn't necessary. That that rape really didn't do anything except provide cheap motivation. There wasn't anything to really get from that. And whether or not you can say that with the Batgirl story, reading it, how much does it fuel her? Was it a cheap attempt at just providing, I hate to say entertainment, but providing that conflict, or was it an attempt to actually try to, like I said, bring her down as far as possible to show how strong she was to come back up? I guess that's up to the reader, and whoever, wants to evaluate that material at this time. It's a little late to say, and since they haven't, I don't know. Oh, what a heavy topic.
Yeah. I just want to, Jake was talking about how race and rape and all that, you can't really grasp until it truly, because it kind of doesn't affect us a whole lot. But there are a lot of bad people in this world, and the people that get in trouble for that stuff, sometimes they aren't bad people either. Sometimes they're just put in this situation where the other person is angry. Like when it comes to racism, I know plenty of people who are racist against whites too. It happens. And a lot of people just use that, or use the racism card to try to get what they want.
Right.
And I mean, same can be said about sexual harassment, sexual assault. So with celebrities all the time, there's news stuff like that all the time where people claim this and claim that. So I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about that with Bryan Singer, I think, the X-Men director. Had that guy that filed the rape suit, said that he had been raped as a teenager, and big stink in the news. And then you find out later on that the guy pulled the claim out, and then they looked at his record and found that he had done that to about 20 other directors throughout the past, had filed the claims and then retracted them. Right. I mean, just recently, I think in Virginia news, there is a woman that had been claimed to have been raped by a fraternity. Yep. And they came out later, and friends said that they thought her story was conflicting. They couldn't find a whole lot of evidence against it, and the story completely 180'd. That fraternity, until that point, all of those kids' lives had changed when this woman came out and said that she had been raped. She, never named a suitor, not to be insensitive to the word, but never named, the person, and just all these kind of weird things. And then all of a sudden, you can't erase some of that kind of thing. And it's such a shitty world to be in, where you actually have the issues, and then you have the people that take advantage of the issues.
Yes, right. Exactly.
And make them worse. If we were in a world where the issues weren't taken advantage of, because the Batgirl comic could actually be one of those moments where a guy said, F this, let's just do it. Let's just, and took advantage of something just for the hell of it. And that would be a bad example, and like I said, we won't know, unfortunately, but, it really is unfortunate that that's a thing. That there's not just the bad people. There's the bad people who really take advantage of, they are the bad guy playing the good guy, just so they can sort of dupe everybody and whatever. I'm sure we've gotten far off topic at this point.
It's kind of, yeah.
But it's all relevant, and really, it is a heavy topic. And I'll tell you, the question that my wife had at one point later on in the discussion was, why does it have to be a form of entertainment? Why is there a term that's actually used on a daily basis called rape culture? Which, if you're not familiar with, Google it, and you'll see a whole bunch of examples of why there is a certain layer of rape culture within America. But this is what I ended up kind of settling on this morning. Just like we talked about, and you really hit the nail on the head. If we look at it for what it is, like, yes, this is a conflict. Somebody wrote it. It's fictional. And it ends up being, whether it's in a movie, a book, comic book, or a video game, rape and sexual assault can be used. I think we just lost Tony.
He hung up.
Sorry.
Oh, we lost your video.
Yeah. I misclicked.
Hit the video button.
Let's say if we use that as, it ends up being in a certain level of entertainment. Like, is it there just for the entertainment value? I mean, that's what some people think, and that's why they have a problem with it. Saying, like, why do you have to put rape in this movie? Is that just for entertainment? That's just something that we have every day in our culture? It's a movie about a family and the things that they go through, and you have to throw rape in there? Mm-hmm. But my point, now that I'm settling on it, is that maybe it's not just for entertainment value. Maybe it's not just for the emotional impact that it can have for people. Maybe it's something deeper than that too, that perhaps we're misunderstanding the intention. If we put sexual assault and rape into a book or a movie and it's fictional, maybe it's the idea that we're opening a dialogue. Starbucks is doing this thing now called Race Together. #Race Together. They're writing it on cups. And all it is to open the dialogue between race relations and racial tension. That's all it is. And all is just writing something on a cup. But yet you end up with some of my friends that are middle-aged white males that say, I hope they write that on my cup. I'll have something to say to them. But that's why they're writing it on the cup. It's because of people like you, right? So opening the dialogue is like the first step. But maybe when I say it's something deeper, maybe it's not just for entertainment value. It's not just for emotional impact. Maybe it's exactly what you said, Jake, when you said maybe it's there to show that she experienced this horrific thing and then she came back from it. And that after a certain amount of time, you work through it and you push and you fight, that life can still exist. And that's why I think we need to have movies and books where we need to have media that talks about war and talks about PTSD, or maybe the fact that most people don't know we have lost more soldiers from suicide in the last 2 years than the actual war itself.
Wow.
People don't know that. So those dialogues have to be open so people are aware of this. And it's never going to be perfect. It's not. You can't please all the people all the time. Like, we have a long way to go. And using things like this to open the dialogue and start trying to figure things out open-mindedly, that's how we begin the process and that's how we advance. That's just my 2 cents.
Very good final points, I feel like. Opening up the discussion. It's we do see that kind of thing in a lot of forms of media, and it actually is seen a lot more in, I've seen a lot more in stuff like comics now, or animated films or video games. Talked about Metal Gear Solid briefly, and that's heavy on the idea of war and what it can do to somebody. And there's a lot of different ways now, and it's something like this. Sometimes I feel like. One of the biggest problems I think with something like this is they see it as the comic, and they go, "What business does the comic have doing with a commentary on rape?"
Right.
And well, what business doesn't it have? Some people don't want to read a book, some people don't want to watch a movie, some people want to read a comic. That is a new language now that you can use as a tool. I said this before about video games. It is a medium that you can use to interact with people that may not otherwise be interacting, that you may not be able to interact with other sources, with a book, or with a movie that touches on a certain topic. Yes, right. There are forms of entertainment for this sort of thing, and it's that's just the nature of the beast. They exist in the same circle. You're going to have informative movies, and then you're going to have the Avengers, and you're going to there's going to be different uses for these things, and I don't know. I think some good points were made though, and I do think that that stuff in this vein, not specifically speaking of the Batgirl thing, because it's long over. We can't ever tell. Killing Joke's been around for, like I said, 30 years. It can be done, and when the situations where it is done, I think sometimes it's necessary, or maybe not even maybe not necessary, but it's not something that we can just sweep under the rug.
Right.
Agreed. Does it make you uncomfortable that Batgirl got raped? Well, then good. It really should. It should make you uncomfortable that you see the Joker as such an awful human being, because we look at it, and you look at my favorite rendition of the Joker, the animated Batman series, and pretty much anything after that with Mark Hamill. Incredible, right? Mm-hmm. And then you see, but he's very cartoony Batman, because it's a cartoon. Or a cartoony Joker. And then you see Heath Ledger's Joker, which I am not as big of a fan of, but Heath Ledger's Joker shows you what the actual Joker is, and that is a killer. And the topic kind of goes bigger than just those characters. I'm just using those as examples. But I don't know. It was a good topic today. It was very heavy and a little bit more than I expected to get from the Batgirl topic, but I'm glad that we could take so much from it. And I like to be able to tackle heavy, hard topics on occasion, because these are not easy topics to talk about.
Right.
Like I was telling you with my buddies at work, there's so many times where, I want to be able to talk about things. I want to be able to talk about, this. I want to be able to talk about race relations. And it's not always easy, because you got to worry about anyone calling you out on being politically incorrect on everything, because people do it. Because just as Tony said, there are people who just want to pull any card whatsoever, sexist, racist, whatever, on either side of the fence. Right. So thank you for being able to sort of take that cover art story and go a little bit deeper into it. I'm glad you and Annie had that discussion so we could actually sort of bring something else out of it. Thank you for coming on the show, Ross.
Thank you, fellas.
Next week, I guarantee it will not be nearly as heavy as this.
Or will it?
Big surprise. All right, thank you. We will see you next week, Ross. Have a good weekend. And he's gone. So, oh, come on. Oops. I'm trying to wait for Ross's picture to disappear. Oh, wait, I got to remove him from the group. Removed. Tony's back. And we'll resize. Resized. Resizing. Oops, and I got to edit now. Move you over. Move me over. All right, we're pretty much there. Well, that's the end of our show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for tuning in. I do have a few things to say, like I normally do, at the end of the show. First of all, before I really start with anything crazy, if you love me, you will go on Twitter, and all you have to type in is hashtag a Hideo Kojima game, and type something like never forget or something like that. And try, if you can't spell it, try typing it in the Twitter. There's like 1,000 people. There's more than thousands, probably millions of people posting on Twitter. I'm pretty sure that's like the only thing I tweeted last week was a Hideo Kojima game, because of that Konami removing that from all of their artwork. And you can't erase the past. He did all the work. He should be getting credit for it, and they don't want to give him credit for it. So make your post on Twitter, make that trending, because it would be awesome if it did. Ways you can help out the show. Man, I'm like drained. I'm physically and emotionally drained after that conversation with Ross. Ways you can help out the show. Tell your friends. If you listen to today's show and you're like, damn, that was pretty good. There's a lot of good serious topics, a lot of good comedic topics. Tell your friends about us. Tell them about specific parts of the show that you liked. No, they got a really good Would You Rather segment or whatever, you know? Let them know. Share the posts. Share our MixLR posts, share the Twitch posts, and damn it, I forgot to post on the Facebook today. Every time there's something I can't remember. And I was like, I'll get MixLR running, and I got MixLR running, and then I forgot about the Facebook. So if you're diehard fans, hopefully you still tuned in. Figure out on our website how you can sponsor a segment if you're interested in that. You can support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/streamthemachine. You can help us out there. You can become just a supporter if you like. You don't have to worry about any kind of donation, or there is an option to set up a tiny monthly donation as little as like $1. I think you could do it. You could probably even go less than that. So anything helps. Do 50 cents. 50 cents is great. Or do none. Just become a supporter. Email in your music. I love playing good stuff on the show, much like Sarah Dillard's song earlier today. I want more of that stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you know anybody that does any music or anything, send it in. That way we can play it on the show. You can follow me on Twitter at RedefineJack. You can follow Tony on Twitter at TonyDePalma51. He's pretty hilarious on there. You can follow the show. You can follow the show at STM Podcast. There you can find out when the show is going live. Excuse me. When the audio show gets posted and when the video show gets posted. The video show actually, I think, automatically posts on Twitter because I have the Twitter set up with the YouTube. So sometimes I'll get a message and people will be like, when's the video show going to be up? Check Twitter. Just subscribe to Twitter and or to the STM Podcast, and it will notify you before I know. Because when I publish the video, it does all of that on YouTube's end. So I close out of the browser, I'm done, and I don't check back until like a couple hours later to see if it's done. Yeah. But if it's already uploaded, YouTube already tweets about it, and it's done, and sometimes before I even notice. So find out more information about us on streamthemachine.com. I redid the archive section. So the archive section, instead of having 50 episodes going all the way down, now it has a nice little link at the top that says 2014 archive. And then it starts all of our 2015 ones. So that way, if you specifically are looking, you think to yourself, well, you know what, I've heard most of this stuff from this year. I want to go back and listen to last year's stuff. You can actually just click on the 2014 link and find more of our shows there. I was considering doing monthly, but I think that would be a little bit too much work for just having 4 episodes a month. So at the moment, we will just chop it up by the years. Want to thank everybody for being on the show and doing awesome things. Tony, as always, for being great and just being there, man. It's awesome stuff. We're coming through a year now. Wow, I'm not really choking up. I was like air caught in my lungs. It wasn't that.
You can admit it.
Wasn't that emotional. But coming up on a year now that we've been doing this, and I appreciate all your hard work and your effort. Want to thank Ross for coming on the show and bringing the hard topics like he does and offering such an interesting insight into everything, and being able to talk to his wife about stuff and get her input on things, to like half of our conversation today probably would not have happened had he not discussed it with her. So almost a big shout out to Annie there, who probably doesn't listen to the show at all. But thank you. Thank you for listening to us male chauvinists who don't care about women at all, because that's probably what everyone's going to get from our Karmafied segment today. Next Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 9:30 Central. It will be our last episode for probably about a month that we are going to go on a break and relax, assuming that that's enough time. I doubt we'll take more than a month, but I guess it all depends on the schedules. Episode 50, ladies and gentlemen, the next episode. Tune in live for this one. I'm going to tell you, just tune in live. Yeah, you could just tune in later and watch the video or listen to the audio, but it's not going to be nearly as damn good unless you tune in live. There's a live energy. I've listened to morning like talk show podcasts live, and like delayed, like later on, and it is always so much better just listening to it live. There's a special energy that comes from it, because it's all going on and things could go wrong at the drop of a hat. But they don't, because we are professionals, or at least semi-pros at this point. We have one final song to play us out before we start doing weird... this song's kind of important. I should have picked a better one. No, this is a good song. This will play us out. Next week we will have a weird a weird lineup, so I'm not sure what we're doing for music yet. But this is Nick Falcon with a song called Playing Fair. It's off the album Playing Fair. It's a nice little pop punk / rock song to play us out. I want to thank everybody for listening in. Show's like right on the dot 2 hours today, it seems like. So
yeah.
Congratulations. Sorry to have a 2 hour show lead up to another 2 hour show. Should have known. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Thank you, Tony, for everything always. Have a great weekend, everybody. I will see you guys later.
Bye.
I got a bone or two to pick with you. You said you wouldn't mind, but now you claim I crossed the line. That's not playing fair. You've got a lot of nerve to talk about what I deserve, and you seem so awfully smart. I wish you the best of luck. You're not playing fair. Now the fun is over, and that's funny. I wasn't sure it had begun. Whoa, if no one's looking for you, well then I guess there's just no point in hiding from anyone. Give me some time. Get rid of yours and I'll get over mine. Try not to get attached. Your catch, I'm sure you'll find your match, but don't think it's me. I guess the fun is over, and that's funny. I wasn't sure it had begun.
A piece of that tip just got me.
When I felt them, they were perfect.
I can't get over how good that Tom Brady line is. I'm going to play that
really
way more often than I should. Oh, man.
Killing it.
Oh, I got to get a haircut today.
What? Haircuts are for quitters.
Well, I'm not getting it all cut off. I'm actually just getting it sort of trimmed up. And
No.
so that'll be exciting.